Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into the Radults podcast, the podcast that highlights the stories of people who said fuck that to the idea that growing up means giving up on your dreams and instead turn those dreams into their reality. Today's guest is Janine Morcos, director and founder of boutique music publicity company Dallas Does PR. Janine is one of the most respected and sought-after publicists in the Australian music industry, with a 16-year career journey that has seen her work with a plethora of the world's premier heavy acts. Janine Morcos is an absolute Radult, and she's our guest on Radults Today. Welcome back to another isolation era episode of Radults. Today's guest is publicist Janine Morcos. Janine, welcome to Radults. Now, for those who don't know, who are you and what do you do?
Hey guys, my name's Janine and I'm an independent publicist that specialises in alternative and heavy music and have been in the last 15, 16 years.
Jeez, that's quite a career right there. I mean, so obviously a lot of people can have a bit of a warped perspective on what exactly your job entails. If you had to put it to the layman's and the simple folk out there, what exactly does a music publicist do? There
can be different ways you can interpret it, but a music publicist basically, gets the word out there and promotes new music and artists and festivals and tours to the masses. So we basically work with, amazing publications, media outlets, artists, radio stations, TV stations, and we're also babysitters to artists as well.
Babysitters, all right, that's interesting.
Well, that's an interesting way of putting it, but I would say also very accurate, given I've seen the way you look after your bands. Some of them call you Mum, I believe.
That's correct. Some people do need their hand held, but yeah, basically, as a publicist, you try and ensure your clients and your artists have trust in you because, they're relying on you and believe in you to handle their work that they've been working on for so long with the best of your abilities. So you're also taking them through steps of, how to promote themselves and, where they should be in the next interview and preparing them and things like that. So hence why being a babysitter is kind of like a loose term as to what we kind of do as well, because we're also ensuring that, we hold their hand every step of the way.
I wish I had someone like that. I am curious. How does and before we get back on track, how does I guess the current situation with the pandemic sort of affects obviously bringing tours to the masses, as you say?
Well, obviously it's put everything on a standstill from an entertainment perspective and everyone involved in the entertainment industry. You know what I mean? Artists are finding creative ways to still be able to perform in some sort of way in their isolated rooms. But, as a whole, it's put a really big hole in our economy and what everybody does in the industry as well. So it's affected myself, it's affected artists, it affects, your road crew, your tour managers, your booking agents, your album cycles, for artists who have just released albums, who prepare themselves to tour on the back of these albums for 2 years plus. They're unable to do this as well. So, artists are finding creative ways to still ensure that they're kind of have that connection with, their audience while we get through this situation that we're currently in. As we know, it's a bit of an unknown. We don't know how long it's going to last, and we're being told, we may not see international tours till, next year, quite possibly 12 months. So it's a bit of a crappy time, but we've just got to find ways to adapt for the time being and be creative with what we've got.
Yeah, we really do. As a publicist, do you have any role in helping acts identify how they can still function during this time, or is it more of a case of they come up with the idea and then you help them publicize it?
With a lot of the artists that I work with, I don't really have a hands-on involvement in terms of what they could be doing. A lot of the campaigns and stuff I'm working on are just album-based, international-based campaigns. So if an artist does come to me with an idea, then, yeah, I'll be a person that kind of will tell them, yeah, it could work this way. You know, this is what we can do on a publicity level and find creative ways to get the word out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, no one becomes a music publicist without a love of music. So tell us and the people, where did your love affair with this music start?
With heavy music or just in music in general?
Either or.
I think, look, I got into a lot of pop stuff when I was like a teenager, like in my, 12, 13 years of age. But it wasn't until I was about 13, 14, I started getting into a lot of alternative music. A group of girlfriends in high school that I was with started an all-girls band where I picked up to play drums. And my love of, the Seattle sound and the grunge sound kind of formed by playing in these bands with these girls. So, I started at an age of like 13, 14 where I'd play in my all-girls high school band, playing stuff like Veruca Salt and Nirvana and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So that's kind of where my love of music kind of established and then it kind of grew into, getting into metal. When I was about the age of 15, 16, I started falling into things like Slipknot and Machine Head and a whole bunch of bands I kind of later down the track started to work with on a professional level. So, yeah, it was basically when I was in my teenage years and just playing in bands, basically. That's how my love of music kind of came about and the music that I listen to now.
And was there a certain moment that when it became clear that music was going to be your career?
Yeah, I think it was the age of like 14. I was a ballerina. I started dancing when I was at the age of 7. And I did that for about 7 years, but then my heart just really wasn't in it. So when I started listening to music and getting into music, I kind of knew that that's kind of the career path I really wanted to go down, which I have all these years later.
Right on.
Yeah, well, it's a hard thing to start doing as a career. How did you get the look in to become such an established publicist? You gave up the ballerina dream, and then did you go to uni?
So I think my foot into the industry is a little bit different to what a lot of people's experiences have been. A lot of people kind of fall into it after doing a certain degree, especially publicists do a lot of like journalism degrees or marketing degrees and things like that. Or people fall into it via, work experience. For me, I've always been a very hands-on and a very proactive person. So after I graduated year 12, I went to JMC Music Academy because back then I knew I wanted to be involved in music, but I didn't know what part of the industry I wanted to kind of have a look in. And also I wanted to get a general overview of, different aspects of the business. So before I kind of put all my eggs in one basket and then hated the career path I went down, I decided to go to JMC because I found that their courses were quite open and they gave you different insights to different parts of the business. And so I signed up for a degree with them, and halfway through my second year, I was given my first job in the music industry. So I was 18 and I started as a receptionist at a country music booking agency, of all things, which had artists like Keith Urban, or all of the top Australian country artists. And so I kind of learnt the ropes working with them. And I climbed the ladder a few times. Had different job promotions with them. Learnt how everyone did their job. I learnt to network, so during my time there, I was going to events and music events and award ceremonies and gigs and stuff like that, and really networking before I moved to Melbourne. So I moved to Melbourne, and not long after that, I got a job at Roadrunner Records, which was like always my dream label, because there was so many artists on the label that I listened to for many years. And so my job there was like a 2 day a week publicist. What was I? I was like a publicist, a coordinator for the publicity company. And then during my time with Roadrunner Records, I just grew and grew and got promoted and learnt more of the ropes, and ended up running the entire department. So, so my path kind of weaved into a different pathway than most people would.
So, the formal study that you undertook obviously helped you. Do you feel that it helped you more from, let's say, a technical perspective or more personal perspective?
I think more of a personal perspective. I think you just learn more on the job. You know what I mean? You definitely learn with a hands-on approach and real life opportunities and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I found the studying side of things just got my head around how the business worked from a basic level, and it gave me an understanding of what area of the business what people apply to. But for me, it was more of learning the ropes before going in and then having the hands-on approach. Like, I started doing publicity with no publicity experience. You know what I mean? And that's something I didn't learn in school. It's something I learned on the job.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. No, that's definitely interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Obviously, look, I don't think it's fair to say luck, but obviously you had good experiences or good opportunities early on, during your study and all that, obviously paved the way for things to come.
Well, I've always been a driven person, a hands-on person, and I'm not a person, I'm not one of those people that waits for opportunities to come my way. I've always, learnt to work hard and prove your worth. You know what I mean? And for me, it was like, hey, I'm pretty good at communicating. I know my shit. Like, you know what I mean? I can, sell something in a way where it's not a sales-based job, but really believe in everything that I sell. So, and everything I've learned, I've put everything into and proven myself and proved my worth to get where I am, rather than waiting for opportunities to land on my lap, because they never were going to. So the only way I could prove to others that I was worthy was to put in the hard yards. And I did for many, many years, and I still do. I wouldn't have got to a point where I'm now running my own independent publicity company if I had not put in the hard yards and learnt to really be driven and be out there all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've obviously got the right personality type to have seen the opportunity there and then really pursue it and make it your own. And that led you from working with some incredible metal artists at Roadrunner to cooking vinyl, if I'm not mistaken. How did working at Roadrunner prepare you for working at cooking vinyl?
After Roadrunner, Roadrunner got bought out by Warner Music. So I was merged into Warner Music for 18 months before I was poached by Soundwave Festival. So Yeah, so I was at Roadrunner and then got merged into Warner, and Warner was like a really good learning curve for me because I only learnt how to work with just alternative and heavy artists, and Warner opened my mind to be able to be a little bit more diverse and working with independent, like indie artists or pop artists, and learn to not be so close-minded in terms of the artists that I work with, let alone the media outlets I work with. So then when I got poached by Soundwave, um, I decided to step away from publicity for a little while, just purely because I felt like um, my my drive was not there, and I wasn't sure if my drive would always be there. So when I got poached by Soundwave, I picked up skills where I ran their label, their record label, Three Wise Records. So I did a label managing role, which also included marketing and sales and production, as well as publicity, and still do publicity for the festivals and the tours and things like that. So then that also then prepared me for cooking vinyl when I left, Soundwave, to cooking vinyl, because cooking vinyl was a real diverse label, which had a diverse style of artists, from alt country all the way to metal. So working for quite a new company back then, I had the skill set and the knowledge of Soundwave and Warner Music and Roadrunner Records to be able to establish myself there and build the foundations of a brand new publicity and be able to work with a whole variety of artists that I never thought I would work with, like the likes of Lucinda Williams and Santana and Billy Bragg, all the way through to, you know, like Polaris and Sirius and High Tension and Parkway Drive. So I feel like, my career before cooking vinyl really did set me up for my role there.
That's an impressive roster of bands that you've worked with there.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I've worked with some really great artists in my time, and I'm sure there'll be still more in the future. But yeah, I've been able to work with some really awesome campaigns and artists in my time. So, and there's always just room to just continue to work with some really cool local and international acts and see where we can go.
Definitely. I mean, look, obviously you have to look to the future and continue with your career. You can't just go, oh, well, that's done and dusted. So it's good to see that you've still got that sort of excitement and passion in it as well.
I think you have to. There's no point doing a publicity role that can be a hard slog at times, if you don't believe in what you do or have passion with it. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I've got to believe in every artist I work with. Otherwise, I don't feel like I can do my job to the best of my ability and do it justice. So I always say to others, the moment I lose my drive is the moment I probably end my career. But, that's not anytime soon.
We hope not.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I can vouch that Janine still goes to an awful lot of shows. She's one of my favorite hardcore show hangs in Melbourne.
Oh, thanks. Well, you have to. There's no point, working on tours or working with these artists if you don't go and support them and have that connection with them. You know what I mean? Like I said previously, artists, rely on you and trust you with their work. So if you don't believe in it, and you're not going to their shows, and there's no point working on it, because you've got to build this long-lasting rapport with these artists and to be able to continue and to be able to grow. So, yeah, and our hangs are fun.
Now he says that to everyone. No.
It's all right. I'm not offended.
He doesn't really, I promise.
Look, I'm just in it so I get to hang out with Dallas. That's all.
Look, to be honest, that seems pretty fair.
Look, I'm okay with this. Everyone loves my dog more than they love me, and this is fine. I've accepted this years ago.
All right, well, your dog did do one useful thing for you. It gave you the name for your own company, which you launched, Dallas Does PR.
That's true.
What made you decide to branch out on your own?
There was a lot of factors at the time. I was dealing with a lot of mental health stuff at the time. I'd gone through quite a serious car accident whilst on the job. And I just thought, I think at the time that I decided to go out on my own, it was like now or never. If I hadn't given myself the push to do it then, I don't think I'd ever would have done it. So I just thought I'd bite the bullet and give it a shot. And it's been almost 2.5 years since leaving my previous job and starting Dallas Does PR, and it's been the best thing I ever did for my career. So thanks to Dallas for the logo name. But yeah, so there's a lot of factors, but yeah, it was just more of my time if I hadn't done it then. And, you know, for me, it was more like, you know, trying to make my own money, you know, like work hard for my own money and be proud of what I do and doing it on my own terms. So, yeah, it's been great ever since.
Was it hard to convince your ex to come with you on the new journey? And did you find yourself stepping on any toes along the way?
So I didn't tell anyone that I was leaving, which it's a hard one. I worked with Sony Music, Cooking Vinyl on a retainer, where I would work all of their alternative and rock acts across quite a few of their labels. And when they found out that I had resigned from Cooking Vinyl, they had asked me what I was doing. I told them I was going freelance, and on the permission of my previous employers, they decided to bring their business with me. So they were the only clients that I basically had that came over with me when I'd left. Everyone else just kind of found out that I had started up my own thing and had approached me for work. And I'd worked at Polaris for the beginning of the Mortal Coil campaign. And about a couple months into me doing my own thing, they came over and asked if I would work with them as well. So, you know, for me, they were a band that I have watched grow from being quite a small artist to who they are now. So I'm quite stoked to have had them for pretty much almost the entire time my business has been together. So, yeah, so I didn't really take on anyone. I left everyone with my previous employers and then just started up new relationships, working with existing relationships on new campaigns, and formed new clientele and ongoing clientele from there on. So, yeah, it's been cool.
Do you feel that makes it any easier, or is it more difficult starting with a clean slate?
It's definitely scary because it's the unknown. You know, when you're starting on your slate, you don't know what you've got ahead of you, you know. I like even signed up to like be an Uber driver because I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get any clients. What if I need work? I need money. Like, seriously, in my mind, I was like, nah, no one's going to work with me. But as soon as I started up, I had just a flood of like all of this new work come in, and I was like, oh crap, like it kind of gives you that confidence boost that people do want to work with you and people value what you do. So in my case, it was scary because it was the unknown, but then it was a relief and, you know, quite exciting as well, knowing that people do want to work with you. And you get to work, you know, you get to pick the clients you work with. You get to pick the artists you choose to work with, and they're the ones that you feel passionate about, and you know that you're going to do the hard yards and you're going to go above and beyond and give them the best opportunity and the best case possible. So, Yeah.
So the secret is out now that during the coronavirus pandemic, you're an Uber driver. All right, so
Yeah.
breaking news here first.
It's my go-to, my
Yeah.
fallback. Yeah.
They're just stuck listening to Polaris. You don't let them change the radio.
Exactly.
What a masochist.
That's not gee.
You and your puns tonight.
Has anyone quit a podcast midway through? Like,
I don't know. Let's see if I can make it happen. Well,
It won't be with me.
now that I've ruined the vibe,
oh,
it sounds like a good time to take a slight detour, and have our first rad break. So Janine,
Yes.
are you ready to play a game called BYO Band?
Okay, what does this entail?
You can make one band consisting of a maximum of 5 members from acts you've worked with. Who's in it and what do they do?
Oh my god, are you for real?
now she gets to play favorites. Yeah, how's that networking going?
Oh, this sucks. Jesus. Man, this is a hard one. All right. From Deftones as the vocalist.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Mark Morton from Lamb of God on guitar.
Oof.
Matt Heafy from Trivium on guitar. Oh my god, this is really hard. Oh god, what drummer am I going to pick?
What about yourself? Like, just put that out there.
No, my time in being a band is over with. No one wants to hear that crap. Let's say Daniel from Polaris on drums. Bass player, right?
Yep.
Ooh, this is a tough one. Who will I have on bass? This is what happens when you put me on the spot.
I'm sorry.
All right.
He's not sorry.
No, Mark Hoppus on bass.
Ooh. How?
You got one person that like just makes the rest of it look really weird. The other 4 are like standing there going like, you're not getting in this car. It's like that meme with Ice Cube in Boys in the Hood where they're all in the car, or like Friday where they're all in the car, and then you got like Mark Hoppus just standing on the outside.
All right, so let's recap. We have Daniel from Polaris on drums. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, we have Chino on vocals from Deftones. We have Mark Hoppus on bass. We have Mark Morton on guitar. So did you give us a second guitarist?
Yeah, Matt Heafy.
Heafy,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. All right, so I'm Roadrunner Records. I'm going to give you an 18 album deal.
In saying that, they would have done that even with just Mark Morton or Matt Heafy anyway. Isn't that what like Trivium and Lamb of God have now?
Yeah, true, right?
They write their own contracts at this point.
Possibly. Though
I mean,
only one artist in that lineup is only on Roadrunner these days. Lamb of God aren't with Roadrunner anymore. So
Well then, I just made a mess of that for everyone. That's fun.
Look, you did that with the puns. You're just making it worse now.
That's fine. Well, let's get back on track. Let's blast beat our way through the first half of your career.
God.
and ask you.
I'm
And ask
so
you-
done.
What was the most memorable experience up until now for you personally? Is there an experience that stands out?
I have so many that it's really hard to choose. Just one memorable experience. You know what I mean? Like, there's been various of really awesome highlights and achievements in my career to date that it's really hard to pinpoint one. But there could be, there's a few that I could highlight. Working on the first ever Good Things Festival was an absolute highlight, because having a brand new festival in the Australian market, a travelling festival that goes for 3 dates, and not knowing what the outcome was going to be like, but having it as a massive success was huge. Last year, working on the Bring Me Horizon Ammo record, that went to number 1. That was a big highlight. Working with artists like Northlane and Polaris, highlight. Parkway Drive's number 1 record with Aya, working with those guys has been a career highlight. There's been huge, so many, but yeah, I can't point one, I'm afraid.
It's definitely not Brenton's puns. That's
No.
But you know what? I can say, having worked as a journalist on, I think, pretty much all of those campaigns you just mentioned at some point in time, I will say that those have all been highlights for me too. So you obviously did a really good job in terms of your your publicity work, because I've always found that your acts have been well prepared and ready to actually engage with what they're being asked to do. So that shows that you prepared them really well.
Well, I think it goes both ways. I think, I wouldn't be doing my job right if I'm not briefing the media outlet and the journalists with all of the tools and assets that they require to ask questions for their interviews. And it wouldn't be my job if I'm not preparing the artists themselves on who they're speaking to, who the media outlet is, and what they're, what they're going to be asked, because there's nothing worse than having an unprepared journalist and a hungover artist doing an interview together that becomes one giant mess, and it's embarrassing, and it comes down on the publicist. So I think, I take pride in knowing that everyone always receives all the adequate information they require to be prepared for their interviews.
In saying that, though, a hungover interview with an unprepared journalist sounds amazingly fun.
No, it's not.
So, look, from everything that you've told us, clearly you've worked hard, and it's obviously paying off. You've got a very successful career that obviously you should be proud of. Have you ever been dismissed or undermined based on your gender?
No, I think for me, I was always quite concerned at the beginning of my career in doing publicity of that possibly happening, because I started in my early 20s, and being a young girl in her early 20s, working with older men, especially in a heavier scene, I always had been quite cautious of the fact that they may have undermined me or tried to, I don't know, not bully, but just kind of push me around. But I've never had any of those sorts of experiences in my career. So, you kind of have those little, from time to time, something small might happen, but nothing that's quite dramatic or large that would affect me personally in what I do my job.
That's really good to hear, because unfortunately, when we're having these conversations with females or femme-identifying guests, we often find that the answer is actually yes. that has occurred. So it's really nice to know that in what I consider to be one of the safer industries for women or non-binary identifying people, that it's proven itself to be that way and that you have been accepted. That's awesome.
And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because it does happen in our industry. You know what I mean? And just because I've not had extreme experiences like others, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because it does happen, and I have seen that happen to others. And I, and like I said, like it's happened at small levels with me, but not to the point where I will be sitting here blasting the shit out of my extremely horrible experience. But I've also been very cautious and wary of who I work with as well. You know what I mean? Like I've not been exposed to, say, certain extreme measures as other people have. I've predominantly worked in a heavy scene, and a heavy scene where everyone's quite interconnected and people work together. So yeah, like in my experiences, mine have not been as extreme as others. And yes, we do need to keep working on, these measures and ensuring that women don't feel undermined and they are being taken seriously. But in my experience, it's been a lot tamer than others, is what I'm kind of saying.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And the fact that you're aware that there's been others that haven't been quite as fortunate is good too. And your success story helps to shape a positive and progressive narrative moving forward, I think. So hopefully people can look at how you've managed to navigate your way through the industry and take some advice from that, which is awesome.
Yeah, and we're here to support each other. And I feel like a lot of the women in the entertainment industry have a really good, strong network and support network where we all do support each other and, back each other, and quite vocal on our needs and what needs to be changed. And I think more of that needs to happen as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think that anyone should be made to, stay silent, regardless of, no one should be lynched or anything like that in that situation. You should feel comfortable to come forward if, a certain experience has happened or an injustice has happened in that sense as well.
100%, and feel like that they're being supported by being open as well. I think that's the biggest thing, is when people finally come out and share their experiences, they may not feel like they've got that support. So I feel like, women should be able to be open about their experiences and also feel supported by their community.
Absolutely. They need to be able to, have that backing and support behind them to make it known.
Exactly.
So moving forward, obviously that can be a bit of a touchy situation, and can be uncomfortable for certain people. Maybe not necessarily this, and to make it a little bit more light, what have been some of your dream experiences throughout your career so far?
Oh, I think everything, I don't know. It sounds so cliche. I dreamt of working in the music industry and working in, publicity, promotions in some sort of way, but never did I ever dream of it being the way it is. And never did I ever dream of working with artists that I grew up listening to and admiring, and, artists that got me into music. I never thought I would ever work with them to the certain capacities that I have. So I think for me, that's a dream come true in itself. Growing up listening to, artists like Deftones and Incubus and Slipknot, Machine Head, the list can go on, are people who I ended up working with at some point in my career. So I think that in itself is a dream come true.
Aww.
I know. I just want to give her career a big hug.
It sounds so lame, doesn't it? It's just like, oh, who is this chick?
Bring back Dallas. We'll talk to him.
Look, much like your handbag collection, as the kids say, it's all Gucci.
It's funny because it's true.
So anyone listening here, get into the publicity field, and you too can have a big handbag collection.
Yeah. Don't be as silly as me.
Wonderful. Well, look, we can't let you get away without telling us some of the bad experiences as well. I mean, surely you've had one or two nightmare stories that you learned from.
And you don't have to say Brenton's puns, like we all know this.
Or you don't have to say Brenton emailing me 747 times every time we're working with Parkway Drive.
Bad experiences. I have one bad artist experience that I always tell a story of.
Let's do that.
You want that one? Dave Mustaine is all I will say. Yeah. That's all I will say. I've had one bad experience, and his name is Dave Mustaine.
Look, that's okay. I mean, dude has to live with getting kicked out of Metallica, so life's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, look, you know what? I think a lot of people only have that one bad experience with him too. It's never made a second time, you know. We're going to call you the Jason Newsted of music publicity.
Watch it, you.
Now, what, are we just going to turn the other end of this call down so low that we can't hear it in the mix, and then call it the album "And Justice for Janine"?
God, you're on a roll, Brenton.
Look, I'm the real Fred Durst here. I'm just going to keep on rolling.
Oh my god.
What is going on?
I'm going to edit this episode, and every time he sees a pun, it's just like beeped out the whole way through.
Well, that's fine with me. Now, so if someone's sitting back there and they've got a shit hot record that they need some help promoting, what would make you as a publicist interested in working with a band?
Oh, there's a lot of factors in play. I think it depends where you are as an artist, you know, how established you are, how much of the groundwork you've put in. You know, if you're a new artist that's just started up, that's writing music, do it yourself. You know, you need to really put in the hard yards in setting up your social media platforms, you know, setting up your music, you know, getting, you know, once shows are back up and running again, you know, get on playing with shows and networking, but you need to be doing the hard yards. And just because you've got your band together doesn't mean you're ready to have a publicist. Don't spend your money, don't waste your money. So I think the biggest key there is you really need to put your hard yards in first before, you know, you start looking at the opportunities of having a publicist. And I think for me, I need to see if this artist has got, you know, a decent team behind them to help push their music along and just not just rely on me to do all of the work, you know. So the artist needs to be aware of, you know, what's involved and, you know, what content they've got to provide and have all of their assets ready, have a timeline in play. So, yeah, there's quite a few factors in play, but I think, you know, artists start up and then automatically think they're just going to hire a publicist. Save your money, do it yourself for a while and get some, you know, get a bit of a buzz happening before you start looking at bringing a publicist on board. Yeah,
I mean, we know that you've got your own band coming out with Dave Mustaine, Mega Dallas. So Are you going to do your own PR with that, or are you going to let Dave do it? Because obviously he does that really well.
I think we'll quit before it starts up.
Look, this is a really nonsensical question, but it is important. Can Dallas actually do PR?
The answer to that is no. He is his own PR. You just look at his face, and that's PR, man.
That's actually how bands like sign up to you, right? They go, look, if we get to chill out with Dallas, we're in.
Pretty much.
We have to talk about Dallas for a little bit because, well, look, I'm a crazy dog person. I've had way too many. RSPCA probably want to shut me down. I am the puppy king. Where did Dallas get his name from?
So I actually adopted Dallas when he was 3, and his original name was Tyson, named after Mike Tyson.
Oh,
This is no word of a lie. And
Tyson does PR.
I was just like, no, that's not his name. And I just kind of looked at him and I was like, what am I going to name this guy? And I was just like, he looks like a Dallas. So I just named him Dallas. So, no, it's not after a rock star or a Dallas Green or whatever people think that his name's after. It's just, I just kind of looked at him and was like, no, I think he looks like a Dallas. And
I was hoping Dallas Green, like I was looking at him going like, he looks Canadian,
Well, I did want to get him a sister and call her Texas. So Dallas, Texas.
And then get an older one called, get it like Houston.
Houston.
I just imagine it being like a grumpy bulldog. And then like when like Dallas and Texas fight, you're like, Houston, we've got a problem. Yeah, take that one, Brenton. I went there.
Look,
I
don't know how to respond to that.
Absolute punishment.
Oh.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, trust you to come up with the Punisher pun. You comic book nerd. Well, we'll almost let you out of your misery here, but before we do, there's a couple of little things left to do. One of which is to play your second rad break, which I've just invented on the spot.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
It is called Rank Your Dallases. I'm going to give you 3 Dallases, and you have to order them.
Okay.
1 to 3, which one you love the most to the one you like the least.
Okay.
So Dallas, the first Dallas is Dallas, your dog.
Yeah.
The second Dallas is Dallas, the city.
Yeah.
And the third Dallas is Dallas Green of Alexis on Fire.
Well, basically in that order. How does that sound?
I agree with the first one, and I'd switch the other 2 around.
Yeah, what did Dallas the city do that's better than Dallas Green?
No comment.
Does it have anything to do with Debbie?
No. Oh, don't go there. Not another pun, please.
All right, well, I'm going to let you out of your misery by asking you to provide some advice for young people who might be looking to become the next Janine. How does somebody go about becoming a music publicist? What are your tips for being a Radult?
Get a dog.
Don't do it. No, do it. Look, publicity is not like fun and games. It's hard yards, and you've got to be a person that's going to be persistent, dedicated, driven, have really good communication skills, And a person who's not relying on it to be a 9 to 5 job, you're basically working around the clock. So, if you've got those sort of, if you've got those things in mind, then, I think the best way to go about being a publicist is doing some work experience. Just kind of, just before you go hard at being a publicist, you want to know that it's something that you're interested in doing. And I would definitely hit up, there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of, labels do work experience. A lot of us independent publicists do work experience. You're more than welcome to hit anyone up for advice or wanting a trial run and just seeing if that's kind of your career path that you decide that you want to go down. So, and then good luck.
Good luck. We've just realised that Janine's laughing this much because the only other option is to cry. So,
look, it's hard. Like, the thing is, like, it's not a walk in the park, and you've got to kind of have thick skin, and you've got to be prepared to take a lot of no's and a lot of disappointment. So, I think, when you do get the wins and you get that song added to radio, or you get that cover story, or you get that feature album, it is such an amazing moment because, you've persevered through a lot of the no's, and, you've climbed through all of that to be able to get some of the wins. So it kind of goes both ways. But for me, I think it's such a rewarding job, and it's something that you are proud of doing as well, because you've been able to shape careers, you've been able to be part of these success campaigns, and you've been able to watch these artists grow, and that's because you've put in some work into it as well. So it goes both ways, and I wouldn't have it any other way, and I would have never wanted to choose any other career path. For me, this was it. So I wouldn't have it any other way, and I think, encouraging young people to get into it and really do it is, the best thing to see. And I would love to see more young, inspiring people to kind of take on the job and, succeed with it as well. So
just don't poach your axe.
Yeah, just don't. Well, you can try.
Them's fighting words.
Look, I wouldn't fight her.
Have you seen my dog?
I have.
Real killer.
I've also seen your killer workouts.
Yeah, I don't do things in. What's that?
Too much cardio for me. Too much cardio.
Oh, yeah, I don't do things in halves. That's for sure.
Yeah. So look, we're obviously talking a bit about publicity and PR here, so we wouldn't want to miss the opportunity for you to plug your stuff, where people can find you online, what of your acts people should check out, and yeah, just like spill all the beans.
Well, this is really bad. I do have social media. Dallas PR does have social media, but I never update it.
That's accurate.
It's true. Look, for those who ever want advice and stuff, my email address is on my Facebook. If people do need to kind of reach out for any sort of advice, I'm happy to help. But yeah, sadly, my social media is not on par of where it should be.
We'll blame Dallas on that one.
Yeah. Dallas, the intern, has not been doing his job.
He's still out getting you sandwiches, okay?
Yeah.
So what artists and bands that you look after should people check out?
Obviously, Polaris. They've just released their second record. We debuted in the top 5 in February. They still have so much more to offer that I think people should really get on board for. This is only the beginning for those guys. I work with a Sydney guitarist called Pliny. who is an insane guitar freak that I think, people should get on board with. And the other acts I work with are like, Enter Shikari. I'm still working with Blink-182 and Bring Me the Horizon and Evanescence. Grey Days, who is Chester from Linkin Park's first band before he was in Linkin Park, are re-releasing music with him. A whole bunch of stuff. So let's get amongst it.
Yeah, and we'll dedicate this episode to Mark Hoppus as well.
Thanks. And his new supergroup, right?
Well, yeah. It's not a supergroup until you're drumming, though.
Oh, no, not going to happen, Soz. My drumming days are over, man.
All right, fine. You're doing all the dancing on stage with your ballerina skills.
Oh, man. That's how she'll drum. That's how she'll do the drumming. She'll do ballerina.
No, this is not happening. I'm drawing the line. Right. It's an absolute no.
All right. Well, I think those were all fantastic tips for being a Radult. And I think that your passion for your craft and your profession has come through loud and clear on this podcast. And you've stayed well on track despite my many efforts to take you severely off track. So that makes you a certified Radult.
Oh, thanks, guys.
And I think that makes it the first episode that I haven't been the one that certifies you. Yeah. Like, Brenton's like the new APRA and ARIA and everything. Air Awards. Oh. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on this episode. It was awesome. I don't think we've had a guest laugh so much, and I don't actually think that we've had Brenton torture a guest this much either.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on, guys, and that was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right. I'll catch up with you soon, Janine.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Bye.
And that brings to an end another episode of the Radults podcast. We hope you've enjoyed your time with us today and that you've left the episode feeling even more inspired to turn your own creative dreams into reality. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow, and share our content. And go out there and live life a little more Radult. Have a rad day.